We have a special guest here this morning as well. Joan, good morning. Welcome to you.
Well, good morning. It's good to have Dr. Holm back in the saddle again.
Oh, very good.
We're happy to have you here.
Yeah,
of course,
me.
you've been sailing the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Got a bit of a tan there. You look
do
very
I?
good. For those who don't know, Dr. Holm is a medical doctor. This is Prairie Doc Radio, and Dr. Holm's specialty is internal medicine. He's a primary care physician with the Avera Medical Group Brookings, and he's also a clinical professor at the University of South Dakota's Sanford School of Medicine. Today you brought a guest, and your guest is Harriet. Well, Harriet is not a stranger to anyone in Brookings, but
No.
Harriet Swedlin. And why don't you tell us why you invited Harriet today?
Well, Harriet's the organizer, ultimate organizer person I've ever met. I mean, and I can tell you that because as the global health program approaches, I've been encouraged and pushed and shoved to get my T's crossed and my I's dotted and all of the planning as organized as it should be. And so I've been part of the people who are involved with the Global Health Symposium that's going to be happening on Thursday night and all day Friday, and Harriet's the ringleader. And so I thought, gee, we should talk about global health, and who better than Harriet Swedlin. So thank you for joining us, Harriet.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy
Now,
to be here.
How did you how did it come to pass that you are one of the major organizers of this global health symposium, and tell us a little bit of history of that global health effort?
The South Dakota World Affairs Council is an organization that's existed in Brookings, initiated originally by South Dakota State University in 2004.
So that was Peggy Miller then?
That was under Peggy Miller's guidance, yes. The organization is dedicated to bringing international topics to be learned about, to educate public and create discussion about international issues. And beginning 7 years ago, as a part of our programming, the organization decided that a symposium dedicated to an international topic was a good way to bring people together and do something a little more in-depth than you can do with a single speaker who gives a one-shot lecture.
What topics have we had so far?
Well, we started out looking at emerging countries that were becoming more important and having more influence on the world scene. So the first year we talked about Brazil, the second year we looked at India, China was a topic one year, Russia was a topic another year, And then following that, we looked at other kinds of issues that were global in character or in nature, but cut across different borders. So we did a symposium on cybersecurity, and last year it had to do with sustainable food and water systems. And so this year, global health, which has been such a prominent hot topic in the news, with all of the things that are emerging around the world, fear for pandemic diseases, the a number of travelers that are going from one place to another and encountering these different healthcare systems, that topic seemed to be one that came to the surface, and so the council, of which I am now the acting board chair, decided that that would be the topic for our symposium this year.
Now, the expert that will be speaking on Thursday evening is whom?
Her name is Catherine Bliss. She comes from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank organization based in Washington. She is a fascinating woman with a very interesting international background, and much of her work deals with the facilitating or the programs that are being developed by governmental and non-governmental organizations, but primarily governmental organizations. So she is connected with the World Health Organization and other international groups. United Nations would be another, that have involvement in the governance of healthcare, in the effort that seemingly needs to be done, where countries connect with each other and cooperate to try to promote better health and to take care of the really challenging issues that people in the healthcare industry and their clients are facing.
So, this conference on Thursday and then Friday morning till noon is available for anybody to come.
The program is free and open to the public, and yes, we want everyone to come.
So this is, I mean, just anybody off the street might be interested in hearing a real expert right here at SCSU present information about the global health problems and what are being done and what needs to be done. And starting on Thursday night, at what time and where?
Thursday night, the lecture is, and that's Catherine Bliss' lecture, and the topic of the title for her lecture is Governing Global Health in an Interconnected World. That lecture is in the Volsdorf Ballroom at the South Dakota State University Student Union on the east side of the Union. The lecture begins at 7 o'clock. It is a busy night on campus, so we're encouraging people to plan ahead and try to arrive earlier than 7 o'clock.
It's going to be difficult because there's a ball game,
Because
7
there's a
o'clock.
basketball game.
And
So a lot of
quite
parking
often, the
probably.
parking lot that is just east of the Volsdorf Ballroom will be full with people going to the ball game. But if you get there, I'd say even 6:15, 6:30, you'd probably be safe. But I would really, if you could get there at 6, it'd be great. You could go in the Union, look around if you haven't been there. And people don't realize that lot that is just east of the Union is a closed lot until you put in, often you can just put in a credit card. It's not, sometimes it's even free. You put in a credit card to get in the lot, and when you leave, you put your credit card in and they haven't billed you. I'm not sure if they bill you at night or not, but it's not going to be any big price, is it?
I can fill in on that, Joan.
Okay.
On Thursday night, that is a no-fee lot.
Okay.
But
So
you
it'll
do
fill up
need,
because of the
you
basketball
do need to put in a credit card when you enter and to exit.
But it
because the arm
doesn't,
be
they will
done, but
not
they
charge
will
you.
not charge you.
Right.
That
Now-
means that it's going to be full.
And
No.
that's you
Basketball
need,
game.
come early.
Yeah, come early.
Or go to another lot.
Find a lot, where the football is. Can you?
Closer to the stadium, over
Yeah.
by the library.
Or even the lot where the pack
Performing Arts
Performing
Center,
Arts
that
Center.
fills up pretty well too,
Yeah,
for basketball.
I would try the lot
I'd go
by
the other
library
direction.
or on the other direction on the west side of the campus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the east side of the campus will fill up with basketball. The west side won't as easily, but I still think that lot, if you were there by 6, you would get it.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Now, on
I really
Friday
do.
morning, that lot on the east side will be available, and we have reserved places, a commitment with the folks that manage the lot for reserved places to exit and enter, or to enter and exit the lot on Friday to get free parking. You will need a code number. And people that want that code number can get that by calling me at 605-691-2687, and I will give you the code. I'm not giving
okay.
that out
No,
wholesale,
but-
but we kind of need to know how many people are taking advantage. But that will be paid for, so you won't be charged for that.
All right.
You need, and when I talk to people, I'll explain how that works.
Okay.
Right.
Well, the Friday morning conferences, people will include my guest from Emory University School of Medicine.
Oh, that's why you have the guest Thursday night. That's great. Okay.
he'll
You know
say-
what? We're going to take a break,
Okay.
and we can tie this in to Dr. Holm has two doctors from Emory in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yeah,
and I
who-
thought, boy, it's amazing you got the two of them here live. Now I know why they're here for this conference too.
And
That's-
by the way,
oh,
you're talking at the Global
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a break. Please listen. There will be more right after these words. Welcome back to Prairie Doc Radio. I'm Joan Hogan in the studio with me. I'm so pleased to have Dr. Holm back in the studio. And he has brought a guest today, Harriet Swedlin, who has worked with the World Affairs Council in South Dakota since its beginning. She was the original director, took a little time off. She's back assisting, directing again. But if anyone is familiar with anything globally happening in Brookings, South Dakota, they know Harriet Swedlin. She has been a godsend for any of this work. And so she has been coordinating this symposium that will be on campus. I've attended a number of these. They're fascinating, and they are open to the public. Don't feel like you have to have a university connection, you have to have a degree. You just have to have an interest in global interest, and love to have you. And if you're interested in coming on Friday, and Dr. Holm's going to talk about that program in a minute, on Friday you can call Harriet. I'll give you her number again, and she will give you a code so you can park free. Instead of putting your credit card in on Friday, you just punch in this code, you go in the lot free. If you go Thursday night for the talk, you really have to get there early if you want to use that code. Put in your credit card to get in. When you leave, you put your credit card in and you get out, and it doesn't cost you anything in the evening.
And if you do it in the day and you didn't get the phone number, use your credit card and pay the $3
Oh, whatever it is.
for 2 days.
Okay, but it's very good. And again, Harriet's number is 605-691-2687. Now, Dr. Holm's a wise man, and he has a program Thursday evening in South Dakota Public Television, and he has two outstanding physicians from Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
How'd you get them here, Rick?
Achiko Undalashvili and Ken Walker from Emory are coming to be on my television show, and we coordinated this so that they could be part of the global health programming the following morning, and that would allow some funding for their travel. And so that was great to work that out. And
Now, what are these two specialists going to address? What were they talking about?
Undalashvili is a infectious disease person. Now think about how pertinent that is right now when there is a viral infection spread by mosquitoes in Brazil that's causing microencephaly in the children of those people who are born, who are impregnated or who are pregnant during the time of the infection. Or think about the Ebola virus and the global health consequences of such a process that could have spread throughout the world. Or think about the bird flu, or you think about the next epidemic. So Achiko, who is a infectious disease person, will be right on the mark expert on this at this time. Ken Walker, who is my mentor, the teacher who was my boss when I was a student and my boss when I became an employee of Emory University for a period of time, is, you know, one of those heroes that you have in your young life and you've always looked up to. And he is coming. It'd be great to see him. He's in his 80s. I think he's just turning 80 actually. And just a fabulous neurologist, and has been involved along with Achiko in developing programming for advancing health and education of health issues such as nursing schools and med schools in the country of Georgia, which was connected in an odd way to the U.S. state of Georgia. So there it is. And so right now there's going to be, there's going to be this Wallopin celebration in Georgia coming up, by the way. Georgia, the country, for Ken Walker and all that he's done for their country.
Isn't that phenomenal?
As he turns 80. It's a neat deal.
And at one time, was Georgia part of the USSR?
Yes.
Okay, is it, no, where is it? I need a map, I can't picture
it-
it. Somewhere in Russia, the
Paris.
former.
Southern part.
Southern part?
Southern,
part, okay.
southern,
Close to
western.
Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah,
But he has
Ukraine,
had a
Ukraine.
connection with that country for a number of years through Atlanta, Georgia, and now he's being honored by that country
Yeah,
for the
see,
work he's done.
For some reason or another, Georgia, the state, and Georgia, the country, became connected through Emory. Emory, you know, adopted it, and they adopted Emory, and all that type of thing.
Right.
And then Ken was part of it, I think, in one way, and then it grew. I mean, you know, and as he was in his semi-retirement kind of a stage, he started developing and working on the nursing schools and the medical schools there. And then, you know, he's got fundraising things that he's been doing and all of the quality improvement types of things and all of that development stuff that a good leader would do, and that's what Ken did. I mean,
So
you
he's
know,
a hero and a
he's a
star
hero.
in Georgia.
and
Isn't
a
that
star,
wonderful?
and a neurologist, and an expert who will be on our show on this Thursday night, tomorrow night. So Ken will be coming in with Achiko tomorrow noon, and this is a great celebration.
Well, if you happen to miss Thursday night, because you may not want to fight that traffic, Carrie does not want to hear that, but if you do,
Watch
please
TV.
watch TV. South Dakota Public Television at 7 o'clock Thursday night with
Right.
Dr. Holmes on call with the Prairie Doc. So either way, you'll be tied in. And Friday, you can definitely attend the campus. Somehow college students have decided they're 4-day students. Have you noticed that? In the past 20 years, kids that used to go to college for 5 days, they're gone Thursday night. They party Thursday night, they leave town. You can get on that campus on a Friday and you'd think nobody was there. And so you'll have no problem being on campus on a Friday. Get parked anywhere.
But we are expecting a good student audience for the symposium
that's
on
good.
Friday.
So they'll have.
That's
I
good.
mean,
They
do have
will be
Friday.
there.
They have an open Friday, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, actually, some classes will be visiting the symposium as class assignments, which is one of the things that we like to do because we capture an audience that we can complete our mission to bring information and stimulate discussion of international issues to a group that seeks that kind of education. So when Dr. Walker speaks on Friday morning and talks about the education work that he's been doing in Georgia, that then opens the students' eyes to their opportunities to go outside the country and be involved in teaching, training other people.
You too could do this.
You too could do this. That's
Make a
a
difference
big
in-
part of the message that we have.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, there are so many global health issues, we couldn't begin to cover all of them in the symposium, so we had to kind of winnow things down. After Dr. Walker talks about how he sees international healthcare education as a way of building strong governments, then we will have speakers from the SDSU faculty who are involved in microbiology coursework, but also who have expertise about the exchange of disease between animals and humans, which has many global connections, Ebola being only one of them. But that's a chance to look at an entirely different topic that impacts all of us. And then at 11 o'clock, the people who are speaking will talk about what South Dakota people are doing in that system. So we are a part of this circular exchange, both the way diseases travel internationally and the way we support and help each other and get input from other countries. One of the people on the Friday morning group is a woman who is Brazilian, who is now here at SDSU. So she has a wealth of background in other countries that she's now bringing to us. At the same time that our people, like you and Joni, who have gone to other countries to administer health care, are doing humanitarian work outside the U.S. This is a huge cyclical thing that has resulted from globalization and interconnectedness of the
Well,
world.
and it's only going to get more
Exactly.
globalized,
Yeah.
as time goes by. I look at Chris Chase is on the list, and I have had the opportunity to listen to him give lectures on infectious illnesses in animals and so on and so forth. He's a fabulous speaker, and so I know full well that the morning Friday is going to lend a great deal of information for people.
I'm afraid I made too light of the students' seriousness on campus, but there will be students that are aware of it. But I'm just letting people know if you want to park, you can get parked on campus on Friday morning without a problem.
That's
We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after these words.
Clerk?
Doc Radio, Dr. Rick Holm is in the studio, ready to answer any questions you might have of a medical nature. But today, we spent more time we didn't really address questions because we were so pleased to have Harriet Swedlin with us. And Harriet Swedlin has been connected with the World Affairs Council in Brookings since its inception. And this program now that will be Thursday night and Friday morning will just be a phenomenal addition to what the World Affairs Council has brought to South Dakota. It's wonderful to have these international, global programs and symposiums available right here in our community.
Right. Well, and that's what SDSU does. It brings a lot of kids from other countries to our community. We are a global community, really, in one sense. I wanted to speak a little bit about a issue that brings neurology and infectious disease together, and that is meningitis. And my essay tomorrow night will be about a case that I saw or I heard about as the end of my sophomore year in medical school when you did your last month out on the prairie with some local doctor. So I was assigned to Joseph Mugley, who was an old surgeon from Madison, South Dakota. In fact, Mugley, this surgeon, was, he and his wife had, I think it was his second wife, because he lost his first wife to tuberculosis. But his second wife and he were, this vibrant couple in the community, and she dragged him into it, and they bought a radio station in Madison, which is, what?
KJAM.
KJAM, K-J-A-M. K, Joseph A. Mugley. It's what it's named after. Dr. Mugley, Joseph A. Mugley, K-J-A-M. And so, I'm glad you could remember. I couldn't remember, but did you know that was why they named it KJAM? Because they were looking for something to put the letters that would fit their family. Anyway, Dr. Mugley owned that radio station for a long time.
That's interesting.
But the meningitis case was fascinating. Now, let me ask any of you in the room here. We've got 4 of us, 3 of you. What exposure have you had of meningitis ever? Any one of you?
I have a friend who was exposed to it, and I had a cousin who was who was diagnosed with meningitis back in the late 50s, and she survived, but she was put in an isolation ward for about 2 weeks, and the doctor said it was so fortunate she survived, but the only problem she had was a loss of hearing in one ear,
Oh, wow.
that stayed with her the rest of her life. But
Right.
fortunately, the other ear she could hear. So she was quite fortunate. At the time, many people died in the 50s from
Oh, yeah.
meningitis, right?
Right.
She was probably about 10 or 12 when she was diagnosed.
Really?
Mhm.
So, well, and you know, it's interesting, if you say meningitis, what you mean is there's inflammation of the meninges, which is the lining around the brain that extends down the spinal cord. This meninges is sort of like, you know, a plastic Ziploc bag that surrounds the brain, and the brain extends itself down the back, which, you know, the spinal cord is just an extension of the brain, as actually the nerves are an extension of the spinal cord. And there are also nerves that affect the face that are extension of the brain itself. The major nerve that is an extension of the brain itself is the optic nerve, which runs up to the back of the eye and becomes a cup. So the eye itself is actually part of the brain, if you really think about it. And it's amazing to realize how the brain expresses itself everywhere, and particularly with the sensitive feelings of your hands. But anyway, the story is that the meningitis is when there's inflammation of the meninges. Now, there's a lot of things that can inflame it. I mean, it may not be an infection at all. I mean, it could be a chemical inflammation, it could be a traumatic inflammation. But when you have an infection that gets within that Ziploc bag, and they present with inflammation of the meninges, but what it is it's an infection of the fluid that the brain is bouncing around within. And that infection can be any virus, can be any bacteria, but the classic meningitis is from a bacteria called Neisseria meningitidis. And when it happens, that happens in young, you know, people that are normally not compromised, just as intact as you can be, and suddenly they get this infection, and then suddenly they're dead. And it's infectious. You don't want to have other people get this, because at the time, before we had antibiotics, people would be dead. I mean, young people, out of the blue, suddenly going to college or in the army, boom, they'd be just dropping like flies. And we didn't have anything we could do until antibiotics. And then antibiotics are sometimes too late, because you got to make it early and make it powerful. So that's it. Now, there are other bacteria that can do it. Little kids would die of Haemophilus influenza, which is a bacteria, not an influenza virus. And since we've had the vaccines, that meningitis has not been killing or maiming children. So
That might be the one my cousin had,
might
huh?
have been, yeah,
Could have
yeah,
been.
might have been Haemophilus.
So many years
influenza.
ago, I had
We're
no
running.
idea.
Yeah.
Oh, we are running out
We
of
got
time.
3 minutes. We got
Fascinating.
We got more time. Did I touch on it, Harriet? What did that make you think about?
Well, that made me think about
Harriet, you've got to be near the mic. Okay.
that made me think about the complexity of issues in the symposium. We can't deal with all of them, but we hope to stimulate discussion, and we'll have a Q&A period at the end to get people together. So if they have a particular concern, like meningitis, there will be experts there, and we just want people to get together and talk to each other to raise awareness. This is a big goal for us, so thank you.
You think about the epidemic of West Nile virus in meningitis. That meningitis from a virus, from a mosquito bite,
Right.
causes neurologic diseases as a manifestation. And one more neurologic and infectious disease combination thing that occurs, and potentially could be another epidemic that will reoccur. In fact, it isn't the question of whether we'll ever have another epidemic. There's going to be many more. The question is
When and how many?
When and how many, and what do we do globally
That's right.
to prevent the spread of these illnesses that can wipe out populations? It boggles your mind to think about, okay, next epidemic, here we are in South Dakota, how do we protect ourselves from what's happening? It isn't just Ebola that is isolated in Africa, it's going to be coming. So.
Well, for those of you listening, if you'd like to know more about the South Dakota World Affairs Council and you have a computer, you can go on the internet to South Dakota World Affairs Council and .com and pull it up, and it will tell you there's the event that's coming up. And the event, of course, is this Global Health Symposium, which is Thursday and Friday night. If you don't have a computer and you want to know more, give Harriet a call. It's Harriet Sweedland at 605-691-2687. Either way, you will be well informed about what's happening with global health and with the World Affairs Council. Dr. Holm, we are out of time. We hope all of our listeners have enjoyed our Prairie Doc radio program and will listen again for Prairie Doc, brought to you by the Avera Medical Group Brookings. As always, you can hear more from Dr. Holm online at prairiedoc.org. Thank you for joining us today. Rick, that's all. Till next week.
Thank you, Joan, and thank you, Harriet.
Thank you.
And Bob, always appreciate you. And I think about tomorrow night's show on infectious disease, neurology, and global issues of the same. All of those. It's going to be an Ask Anything show. It's going to be calling your questions about anything related or, you know what, unrelated. Challenges. They're two internists, and so they should be able to answer any questions of any kind.
I have a question for you.
What's it?
Pronounce the one guy's name again.
Yeah, Undalashvili.
Undalashvili. Yeah,
I've
you
been
got it.
practicing. Good question. Got me. Thanks, and stay healthy out there, people.
Good.